There we go, Case. What's up, man? Can you hear me?
Hey, yes, coming through loud and clear. Am I coming through for you?
Yes, very good.
How's it going?
Oh, dude, very good. I'm so excited to make this episode happen.
Stoked to connect with you. It's been a while. We were been
Yeah,
connected online, so it's good to be
yeah.
live.
Since I started the podcast, you were on my list. I just took a while to send you a message. So I'm so excited.
Sweet. I'm excited too.
Yeah. How are you, Case?
I'm well. It's a beautiful Friday. It's like 4:36 here.
Mm-hmm.
Got to go to the beach and the ocean, so it always makes a good day for me.
Mm-hmm. I love it. Love it, Case. Well, let's get right into it, right?
Sure.
Um, I'd love to if you can share a little bit on for the people who don't know, you know, who you are, what you do, what got you here to where you are today.
I'm Case Bradford. I do a variety of different things. Uh, Most primarily staying alive, so I'm just surviving.
Mhm.
That's the struggle, and striving to be of sound constitution and um, share some of that online. I think that's how we became connected through the great web that is the internet, and
Yeah,
yeah, I guess that's what brought us here today.
I love it. And you know, you share a lot of vitality, right? I mean, I think that's part of your mission. I think it's you're on a mission to elevate our vitality, right? That's what's on your bio.
Yeah,
Right.
that's a big part of what brought me to the internet, sharing ideas online around the idea that our vitality is very low collectively, and I have some ideas to help people that should be accessible and
Right.
impactful.
So why did you ever uh make this your mission?
Around 2020, when the world got shut down for what seemed to be a fairly minor health concern, I hopped on there to see one, what the heck was going on? Why was everyone freaking out? And then two, what can I do to be of service and to help? Because a
Mm.
lot of people were struggling with their health. And this is a continuation of a long-term trend where people are struggling with health and
Mhm.
chronic disease rates are rising. So to give my life meaning, I decided to give my gift to the world, which is
Mm.
some ideas of on how to be healthy, because I found for me it was pretty easy once I learned some of the principles of cultivating vitality, which don't seem to be the norm. So asserting these ideas into the collective consciousness over the hope that they could become the norm, at least for the people that were accessing those ideas.
Mhm. How'd you learn these ideas?
When I was in my 20s, I was suffering tremendously due to low vitality. And what I started to do was listen to podcasts and read books, primarily audiobooks. So I would go for long walks and I would listen to audiobooks and I would listen to podcasts, and I would do it on 2x speed or 1.5x speed. And what that does is allows me to access more information through the higher speed, but then also because I was walking, I was able to integrate more of that information more, because as your body's in motion, your mind is in motion, and you're better able to integrate ideas as opposed to when you're stationary. So I would do that for years. At this point I've gone through 1,100 books and
Wow.
in countless podcasts through that method. So it was really just like trying to figure out, like, what are the ideas that are out there, which ones are real and effective, and
Right.
kind of became obsessed. Honestly, overdid it, but I have a bit of an obsessive personality, or at least I used to.
I love it. Well, something that you share for vitality that I love and admire so much is your esoteric fitness, right? Your way of training. Why haven't you gone in a gym for 7 years?
I grew up in New Hampshire and went to college in Pittsburgh. So these are on the east part of the United States and the north. And most of the time it was overcast. So there was little sunshine. That's like
Mhm.
most of my life up until the point where I moved to Los Angeles, which was when I was 25. So the first 25 years of my life, I'd say about 60% of the time there was very little to no sunshine. So when I got out to LA, I was like, wow, this is amazing. It's a perfect day every single day. This place doesn't seem real. And I'd be in the gym lifting weights, just looking out the window, thinking to myself, I want to be outside. But like, I feel like I had to be in a gym to be healthy, to work out, to lift weights. And then I was riding on my bike one day and I found this place called Original Muscle Beach in Santa Monica, California. It's an amazing place. It was built during the Great Depression in the 1930s. There's all these rings to swing on, bars to do chin-ups and pull-ups. There's ropes to climb. And I stayed and I trained and I felt amazing afterwards. And I just kept coming back and I canceled my gym membership. And as I went there, I learned how to train in ways to stay fit without the need for dumbbells or barbells.
Steel, sun, and ground, right?
Yeah.
That's all you need. And good
it
food.
works. Yep.
So how have you, I'm just curious, how have you cultivated this way of training, right? Because what I've seen is sprinting, kind of, I think it's called animal flow, right?
So
Animal
this
flow
is
with kettlebells, right?
there's an amalgamation of what I currently do, which is taking pieces and parts of different movement practices. So that place, Muscle Beach, it's a bit of a hub for movement enthusiasts, acrobats, Cirque du Soleil professional performers, bodybuilders from around the world. And I've picked up little pieces and parts over the 8 years that I've been training there. So what I do now is sort of a mixed mixed movement arts of sorts, where I've seen different things, like you mentioned, animal flow, acrobatics, calisthenics, yoga. I mix them all together and I blend it, and I'm in the process of sort of formulating and systemizing my own movement practice so I can help teach this to others. But for now, what it is a bit more random and sporadic, but it's intuition based. I move the way my body wants to move. I'm not counting reps.
I love that.
Following a protocol, and it works really well.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think there's this, I don't know. I feel like a lot of people think that for you to be fit and healthy, you need a gym, right?
Yep.
And you're a perfect example that that's not true, right?
Yeah, it's true.
Do you do any swimming with the ocean?
I do. And when I say swimming, what I like to do is hold my breath and swim underwater until I can't hold it anymore, and I'll count my strokes. I'm not very good at it, but I don't like to do laps, but I love swimming underwater because there's a tremendous amount of peace when I'm just under the water. Everything goes away, and I hold my breath. It's so great, man. I love it.
That's beautiful. I quickly want to touch on Peak Earth. It's one of the podcasts that most has caught my attention. I feel like the way that you approach your guests is very admirable for me. So I'd love to know a little bit on why, you started the podcast, how you go with your conversations, how you pick your guests, etc.
As I mentioned a little bit earlier, I've been obsessed with podcasts for a long time, and they've changed my life. Like, they've been really instrumental at helping me get on a better path. So at some point after 2020, once we all started using Zoom more, it became like, I had never done a video call, but after that, it became a part of everyone's life kind of on a regular basis. And I thought, wow, it's actually really easy to start a podcast. I should just do it. It had been in the back of my mind for a long time. So then I just put it together. It was really easy. And I found that it's a great way to connect, have fun, and to network, and just to co-create with other people. It's been a joy. And yeah, I love it.
I love it. What do you look for in your episodes? I mean, how do you choose a guest?
My process is usually just around something that speaks to me. I don't know exactly what, but I kind of follow intuition there too. I think a central theme of my life for the past 4 or 5 years has been tapping into intuition and letting it guide me in my creative choices, in my diet, in my movement practice. And a lot of times that'll just call out to me and guide me in certain directions. Sometimes people reach out to me and it's like, hey, you should have so-and-so on your show, or someone will reach out to me directly and ask if they can be on the podcast. those are some other ways. Yeah.
I love that. Intuition. for the past 4 or 5 years, like you just said, a big part of your decisions have come from that. Why? I mean, why have why you? Since when did you give intuition a chance? And the reason I ask this question in this way is I feel like in today's world, there's a lot of quieting of intuition. One of the main reasons why I dropped out of school was that, and that was an intuitive choice. So, does that question make sense?
Nice. Yeah, absolutely. It's not something I'd ever learned about until my later years when I was on this learning journey. I'm sure I heard about it in a book at some point and became curious. I think the best way to talk about it is the Greek or the Roman, one of those guys. They have a term for it called the daemon, which is just the inner voice. And that was not something I had heard conceptualized up until that point, but it really spoke to me as this amazing concept because we all have this voice in our head. But if you kind of talk about it like that in the English way, people think you're crazy. But yeah, the daemon or the inner wisdom or the inner guidance is, and once you really kind of start playing with it, it is almost like a skill, learning to hear and listen to those small whispers. And I'd had some experiences early on where it really became evident to me that it was a powerful force. So I've been tuning more into it as I've gone.
I love it. I think it relates to synchronicities. This is synchronicity as well. I've been talking about this week, how both things you have to kind of give them a chance and practice them so they appear more in life. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's incredible. How do you feel intuition? Like, how does that connection feel?
Sometimes it's a subtle energy, a subtle pull or a push away from something or towards something. Other times it's a very clear voice in my head that will speak to me. And then other times it's less clear. So sometimes it's energetic and other times it's in articulation. And both are usually pretty evident when I'm in that space of being receptive to it and not distracted.
Yeah, I love it. And talking about intuition, I think there is something very intuitive built to our body, which is fasting, right? Very, very, very intuitive. And I started multi-day fasting because of you and a conversation with Disco Orpheus, Gabriel. I find it just fascinating, right? And my experience was crazy. I mean, it was just 48 hours, but I've never gone past 24. I've never slept with a whole day without eating, right? So that was very like trippy almost because I'm so used to eating twice a day, right? Almost addicted to food, right? I remember the experience of going to bed that night. It was terrible sleep, but I had 3 dreams. The 3 dreams, I dreamt that I needed to end the fast at 48 hours instead of 72. And the 3 dreams, I dreamt that I was doing the fast with someone else, like a companion or like a, you know? And every single time I woke up from the dream, I woke up like if I was hiding food in my bed. Yeah, so enough of that. How and why did you get to multi-day fasting?
So this was the biggest example of intuition in my life when I had COVID in December of 2020. I lost my smell and my taste. This was the only symptom I experienced, which it's a very strange experience. And I wanted them back because I love smelling food and tasting food, and being without that sense was a bummer. A voice came to me and said to fast for 3 days. So that was a really stark and somewhat startling experience for me. I'd never experienced such a profound direct, intuitive guidance, and I listened to it. I ended up fasting for like 80 hours. Now I no longer recommend people using hours to guide their how long they fast for, to speak it about it in terms of days, because it adds a much more guiding method. But I did a three day fast, and
Beautiful.
when I returned to eating, I could taste it again, and it was absolutely amazing. I was just like, wow, this is great. I can't believe that worked. What the heck is going on here? And I became pretty obsessed with multi-day fasting, reading books about it, and I've practiced it seasonally ever since that day, and I've shared it online, and it's great to see it really kind of blossom. Nobody was sharing their multi-day fast or talking about multi-day fasting when I started posting about it. Now it's pretty prevalent. It's a fairly regular practice, which I really believe in, and there are certain cases where it's maybe not the best, which we can talk about if you want, but that's the general overview of how we got started.
Yeah, so let's talk about that. What are the certain cases where it's not the best?
Well, I'd say for young people growing up, they may not want to do a really long fast because they need the nourishment to continue growing. I'm not sure what age would be like the cutoff date. Everyone matures at a different rate, so that's up in the air. But certainly not children. That should be pretty obvious. But also, women seem to do less well on multi-day fasting, so that it seems to be more of a methodology that is adhered or aligned towards the male gender of our species. Although women can also be really helped by it. It's just not as aligned with women from what I've read. There's a book called Dr. Mindy Pelz wrote it. I think it's called Fasting for Women, something along those lines. That's a great book for women on the topic of fasting. But I think the other point is it's stressful on the body. So if you're going through a very stressful period in life, it may not be the best. Again, listen to your intuition. But if you're going to force a fast, I wouldn't recommend it. It's best for people who are well nourished and are wanting to dive deep into that experience, so they can tap into something deeper.
So you've been fasting for like 4 years now?
Yeah. Yep.
How are those experiences for you?
They are lightening and clarifying more than anything. I used to talk about fasting in terms of like the science behind it. Oh, the autophagy and the mitophagy and the AMPK activation. I no longer really use those terms. It's more of a spiritual experience for me, and something that is just generally pleasant to tap into.
I love that. And why is it spiritual? I mean, what do you feel with that?
More clarity, especially in terms of the intuition. Like the thoughts are so much more sharp and less jangled. There's less noise and more signal, and that's something that's difficult for me to get to, especially day 3 and onward. That seems to be a real shift happening along that 3rd day. A lot of hormones will be shifting, and you'll kind of be deepening into the experience. There's this thing called the 3-day effect, which is a pretty cool piece of research along the lines of nature immersion, where like people go out camping and something shifts in them on day 3 because the part of the brain that is constructing your reality is really only based off the past 3 days. So the brain will be like, oh, we're like in nature now. So this is our life. So a similar thing happens with fasting. Where it's like, we just don't eat food now. It's just what we do. And you really kind of get used to it. And it's much more smooth sailing. But
Right. That 3-day effect, you just reminded me of it. The reason why I ever got into the space is after health scare and a couple experiences, I got really into sleep science. I mean, that was my introduction. And that's one of the things that I studied with Matthew Walker, how after 3 days where your brain understands it's in a different place, it now can sleep well, if that makes sense. Right?
Wow. Yep.
Yeah. So for fasting, since it is an incredibly spiritual experience, one of my dad's friends, he fasts for multiple days in a row. I'm pretty sure maybe even a month, he'll eat a little bit in a couple hours and then start a fast again. His life is fasting. And when he does this, there's a different setting in his environment, right? He wants to connect somewhere else. So that's my question for you. Is there something you do differently in these days, or is there something that you choose specifically to practice or to go to when you're fasting?
I wish I could do it out in nature and just not have to work, but that hasn't been my reality yet. I think one day I'll be able to just do a week-long fast out in nature.
Yeah.
But as for now, the biggest change would be I get to wake up really early, full of energy. And in that time, I'm able to just kind of meditate or journal. And it's different from everyday life where I kind of just have to go right into work. Essentially, when I wake up, it's just like, all right, time to get after it. I don't wake up super early with a lot of energy most days. I like to sleep a lot. Sleeping helps me. But then that also means, there's less free time. But the cool thing about fasting is there's no digestion happening. So you have more energy. You need less sleep. So that's the cool part of it. And it's really connected time early in the morning with nothing in your stomach. Some real magic has happened there for me in my sort of ability to just feel oneness.
I love that. Is there a specific date you pick for fasting?
No, that's the hard part, is just clearing the schedule of all social requirements and whatnot. But some like to sync it with the full moon, and I've tried that, and that is kind of cool.
Yeah.
Not always doable, but
I did it like that this time in February. I'm gonna try again this May. Try to see if I can do 72. How do you break a fast? A long one.
It depends how long the fast is. If it's 2 days, 1 day, it doesn't really matter. You just want to focus on eating nutrient dense food. Once you get to like 3, 4, 5 days, then it might matter a little bit more, especially 4 and 5 days. This is where you'll want to control for the volume and the variety, meaning keep it to like 4 ounces and just like 1, 2, 3, 4 things, not a lot of things.
Okay.
Maybe raw and nutrient dense. So for me, that would mean raw kefir, egg yolks, maybe some berries and some bee pollen and some salt. That has been my go-to.
Yeah, I've seen that plate.
Long fast breaker. But it's funny because a lot of my friends have fasted now because of me, and they've said that they eat too much too fast, and it always ends poorly. So it's extremely challenging. It is the most difficult part of a 4 5-day fast is starting to eat again and not eating everything, because it just tastes so good. So
yeah, that's what happened to me. I mean, it was a 48-hour fast, but I broke it in snacks. Way too many snacks. Yeah,
it's hard. It's really hard. It's actually amazing. That experience is just
yeah. I mean, taking the first bite of food is it's incredible. And something that I learned throughout this experience is before doing these fasts, I just fast due to religion twice a year. These are 2 24-hour dry fasts. But after this fast, I gained such a huge appreciation for every single bite of my food. And I love, I used to love to, have breakfast with a podcast on or something like that. Now it's just me, the food, and the ground. That's it.
It's beautiful.
Yeah. Talking about food, I want to talk about, there's something that you share so much, which is raw ice cream. Being a superfood, I've never tried raw ice cream.
Have you had regular ice cream?
Yes, of course.
Okay. Yes. So the difference is that
one's pasteurized and one's raw.
It's true. That's the biggest difference. It's also, the crazy thing is, the regular ice cream, even the egg yolks have to be pasteurized, which not something you hear about much of, like pasteurized egg yolks, but I imagine that's also going to be deleting a good amount of the enzymes and the nutrients in the egg yolks, if you even can find ice cream with egg yolks. So many these days don't even have egg yolks. It's made with various gums and emulsifiers. So when you get to make it yourself with the raw milk, raw cream, egg yolks, raw honey, if you want, that's like one way to make it that is really delicious and nutritious. And if you look at the nutrient density of those foods, what you've got there is something incredibly medicinal, superfood level. And that may be hard for people to believe who have been ingrained in the idea that ice cream is like the bad food of all bad foods. But when you make it with real ingredients, it's actually an amazing substance that is vitalizing.
Why won't raw milk kill us?
Well, it might.
Yeah,
it might if you get it from a place that is suspect. But thankfully, most of the places that offer it, they have a much higher incentive to create something that is free of pathogens, because their entire business, their livelihood is riding on the fact that they're giving you a pure product. And raw milk here in California is tested pretty well. We can get it at the health food store. It's great. And most places you have to go to the farm or have a farm share or a herd share, or they just can't get it at all. But it's how milk used to be and how milk should be.
Yeah, I love that. Case, I have a couple quotes from you here that really put me to the edge of my chair. Like wow, like it made me think, it made me admire. And the first one is one that I responded to your tweet, which is, "Our souls crave flow, seek flow, follow the flow." I responded to this tweet with absolutely every single ancient civilization before ours praised the flow, and they created this. No, they have this connection from earth, from the bottom, from the ground to the sky, right? And the journey of the soul always was by following the flow, right? Why'd you share this?
Flow is such an important part of my life, and I'd say my primary aim in a lot of ways is to seek flow and follow the flow. I don't follow any organized religion.
Mm-hmm.
If I were to, but I've studied some of them, and it does seem like there's this essence of a universal flow of things, a path, or an optimal occurring series of events, and we can kind of tap into that and sense it and feel it. And that is encapsulated in one of my favorite quotes by Joseph Campbell, who said, "Follow your bliss." And like, what is that? What is my bliss? My bliss is when my actions are aligned with the flow. I believe, or at least that's how I sort of perceive it. And when I do things that I love, that I enjoy, I become filled with light, and then I'm able to share that light to other people. So that to me is a primary objective every day.
Yeah, that was beautifully said. I love how you described it as light.
Thank you. Yeah. The light. Love light.
Yeah. How did it become so important for you, flow?
Well, I used to be pretty depressed, and that lasted for a long time. I luckily didn't lose hope. I wanted to figure it out. And a lot of that was through what we talked about, the journey of diving deep into others' ideas and what is out there in the realm of what others have thought. And one of the biggest and most profound ideas was this idea of flow. Like, flow state is one way to say it too, where you start doing something, you just get lost in it. Time flies by. You end with a smile on your face, and you're just like, wow, that was awesome. And I remember feeling that when I would do martial arts when I was in my 20s.
Wow.
I loved it. Wrestling, jiu-jitsu, various striking arts. Like, time would slow down, and I loved it so much. But I decided not to pursue a career in cage fighting because I got hit in the head one time, and it had a headache that lasted for like 2 days. And I was like, this is not for me, but I enjoy practicing it. I'm just, gonna do something else as my career. And It was great though, and I was always been kind of like searching for that, for like how else can I find this, and then I found a little bit with writing and with web design, and like that lasted for a little while. So like it's always been like shifting and changing, and I haven't really been able to find like the thing that's like this is my thing. But I found it with podcasting, and with writing has always been a part of me, and now like making videos, you can kind of tap into it. So creativity has always been an amazing outlet and a way for me to access flow that is an incredible part of life that I think more people could benefit from, creating more that they're consuming and tapping into that flow.
Right. Why do you think we're so disconnected to flow? Because I mean, that's why I asked that question, right? Because we are tremendously scared, I think, and disconnected from flow.
It's a good question. Tough to say why. I would guess that over time, large businesses have gotten bigger and bigger, and their profit models are built on things like greed, things that disconnect us. And as those businesses have gotten bigger, they've been able to impose their will on more and more people. So more people are victim to these big businesses. That's the way that I understand the world. You could kind of look at the other side of the coin and say, well, this is like a demonic spiritual force that is, taking over the world. And who knows? But to me, I see large organizations that are profiting off of disconnecting people from their inner selves and from flow. And that is sort of a behemoth, a dragon that many of us are coming together and trying to slay.
Yeah, I'm about to talk about one with dragons, but before we do that, one of the reasons why I ever kind of reconnected to that inner self was like you, listening to podcasts, reading books. I, for some reason, one day said, fuck it, let me just open myself to something else. So I want to ask you, for someone who maybe is in that part of their life, who feels that they do need to reconnect to that inner self. They don't know how to. They don't. I think you know where I'm going. How can someone start that process based on yours, maybe?
If someone feels the call to be creative and they are afraid to begin, one of the deepest truths of this experience we call life, reality, is that you're going to face resistance to doing something, to creating a better life, because your brain is with you and against you. There's a part of it that wants you to maintain, just keep things the way that it is. And there's part of it that wants to ascend, that makes things better. And we face this inner battle every day. If you want to go and talk to someone and make a connection and create a conversation, to create a relationship, to create memories, you're going to face resistance against that every single time. And it's your job as a hero in this life, in this reality. You have to wake up being you every day. So you might as well decide to be a hero here and now and face that dragon of resistance head on and wield your sword of decision making. Be courageous and chop his head off, create a better life for yourself. Why not?
Yeah.
Why you're going to suffer for another day, or you can rise up and make a better life for yourself. And it starts with choosing to be creative, choosing to create the moment in which you are the hero, no matter how small it is, that will build and build and build and build and build every single day that you decide to pick up the sword and chop again.
I love that. So talking about dragons and resistance, here's another quote from you. Oof, this one is so, I'm going to go. People who deny the existence of dragons are often eaten by dragons within. That hits so, I didn't expect it at all, because I read people who deny the existence of dragons. I thought it was going to be just some other esoteric post, but I finished reading it and I was, whoa, like I never expected that. And I think the thing that came to mind at that moment was, you resist, right? Kind of relates, right?
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Why'd you share that quote?
I've always been kind of fascinated by dragons, like my whole life, because
Yeah.
I remember being young. You like look at these books and TV shows and whatnot. There's dragons. What are dragons? I've never seen any dragons. And there's like no bones of dragons. I guess maybe there are. Maybe dinosaurs are actually dragons, but we just thought they're really cool and
Yeah.
never known what to make of them. But I guess the general consensus is it's a mythological thing, which means it's just from the imagination. It's this like archetypical idea that has arisen in every culture. Asians have dragons, Europeans have dragons. Like every culture has some form of
Yeah.
dragon, even though in some cultures they play different roles. But um, yeah, it struck me because I don't really know. I don't have a tangible meaning for that quote, but it's interesting food for thought. It's a fun one to think about because
That is an incredible one to think about. Yeah.
yeah, we certainly we just talked about dragon resistance. You know, if you're going to deny that resistance exists, your life is going to be governed by that force. And the second you decide, oh, actually, that's a dragon and I'm a hero and I'm going to slay that dragon, now your life becomes filled with meaning and you're on a journey. So that's one small example of a way in which that quote can be applied to reality.
You wrote that quote yourself?
No, I heard it. Forget the name of the book or who said it, but yeah, that's why I think I put it in quotation marks. I could look it up for it if you want.
Yeah, I'll check it out. But so incredible.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, you have another one here, which again caught my attention a lot. I think you said this in a podcast, not remembering which, but you don't want to kill. This is on suicide. Um, you don't want to kill yourself. You just want to kill part of yourself. There's this right, like confusion, right?
Yeah.
Why did you? I mean, why did that come out of your mouth?
That was another quote that I heard on a podcast somewhere. I don't remember it, but it really struck me like a train and it just knocked me on my ass. I was like, whoa, because I had been struggling most of my life with suicidal thoughts and I just never understood them. That part of the reason why they were so frustrating to me is because I didn't understand like why am I this living organism with thoughts to just like end the existence of myself. It doesn't make any sense. And like there aren't any other animals that do that as far as I know. And I learned that like tribes, more hunter-gatherer type tribes, they don't understand suicidal thoughts. It doesn't make sense to them. So I think there's maybe something deeper as to the root reason why humans have these thoughts in the first world. But that just illuminated something in me where I was like, oh, okay, it's not all of me that I want to, extinguish my existence, but there's part of me that isn't serving my current, iteration. So evolving past that part of myself was the goal, and it's helpful.
So you listened to this quote when you were going through that?
Yeah, I heard it on a podcast somewhere, and it's always stuck with me.
What did you do after that quote when you listened to it? Like, did that immediately resonate?
Yeah, it resonated in a deep way, and then I started to think about, well, what part of me needs to die?
Wow. What part needed to die? You want to share that?
I would have to say that it was the part of me that was sort of resisting the call to create, the part of me that was sort of weak and complaining and not being, aggressive, and knowing that I was meant for more and capable of contributing more, and holding back, being like, I'll do that another day, like, putting things off. And those moments where you have an opportunity to talk to someone or to create something or to build a better life, those, stack up. And if you turn them into wins, then you're going to end up in a better place in life. But if you push them off until tomorrow, you just end up sliding down deeper into this dark pit. And that's the part of you that needs to die.
Wow. Beautiful. And thank you for sharing. Yeah. So for my last question, I ask this to all my guests because I love this so much. What brings you most joy in life?
The most joy.
Joy. Yeah.
Wow. There's a lot of things that bring me joy. I think the most joy that I feel is probably the sound of my girlfriend laughing.
Mm,
Uh,
that's beautiful. Why?
I don't know. There's something about that sound that just fills me. I think it's probably you've got the emotion of love that is then mixed with joy. I was gonna
Yeah.
say a few other things that come into play would be like going in the ocean, because that's like love mixed with joy. I love being in the ocean, joy, and then having the like some good raw milk ice cream. That's another one, but it's
Yeah.
they don't quite. It doesn't resonate the same way.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Case. Beautiful. Thank you, man. Is that right? That's not raw ice cream, right?
No.
No. Okay. I got excited. Yeah. Case. Thank you so much, man.
You're welcome. Thank you. That was a lot of fun. It really
Yeah.
flew by, and
Yeah.
thank you for
I,
inviting me.
I appreciate it so much. Whenever I have the actual studio, I'd love to invite you over here to Mexico City for
That'd be
version
awesome.
2. Yeah.
That'd be
Case.
good.
Thank you, man.